I'm Jerry Pol.
And I'm Ian Baird.
We're from Caliber Projects, and we're here to crush this podcast. Welcome to this episode of the Tools of the Trade Monthly Toolbox Talk.
Welcome
Please welcome
to another episode of the Tools of the Trade podcast, your number one construction industry resource. Hear conversations with industry professionals to get the tools, stories, and advice that you need to set your career on fire. You're now streaming the Tools of the Trade podcast.
What's up, guys? Before I introduce today's guest, I would love to introduce today's sponsor, the partner of the monthly Toolbox Talks, the Canadian Apprenticeship Forum. And this is a message for employers. Over the past 20 years, the Canadian Apprenticeship Forum has undertaken a broad range of research projects that align with both national and regional areas of interest, including completion rates, barriers to apprenticeship training, employer engagement, the impact of technology, return on training investment, and youth parent perceptions of careers and skilled trades. Amazing stuff. CAF have developed a number of employer-specific resources that are available for distribution, including an introduction to apprenticeship training, an employer handbook to share the business case for apprenticeship training, as well as employer insights and a series of one-pagers designed to help employers think through the creation of their own apprenticeship program. CAF also just launched a quarterly newsletter for skilled trades employers. If this sounds valuable to you, if this is stuff that you would like to have, you can access these valuable resources on their website at caf-fca.org. That's caf-fca.org to get yours today. What's going on, guys? Thank you for tuning into episode number 7 of the Tools of the Trade Monthly Toolbox Talk. This is the June edition, and I'm your host, Colin Toop. In these Toolbox Talk segments, I have short, current, day in the life conversations with individuals who work in all aspects of construction to not only get the story of what a day in their shoes looks like, but to also ask the tough questions that we need the answers to in order to progress as an industry. And today is special because for the first time in 37 episodes, I have 2 guests on. And I can't believe it's taken me this long for that to happen. But my 2 guests today are Jerry Pol and Ian Baird, both from Caliber Projects, a multifamily construction company based out of the Fraser Valley of BC. And throughout this podcast, I have too many one-liners and awesome quotes to pull out, but I thought I'd leave 2 here for you guys to think about before we get into the episode. And the first thing is, as they say, we love building people and process. We just happen to do construction, along with their mantra, which is love it, own it, and crush it. If you need to get juiced up about construction right now, do not go anywhere, as Ian and Jerry had me loving it, chanting, and stuck all episode with a shit-eating grin on my face and thoroughly enjoying listening to their story and company values. In this Toolbox Talk, we get into the following: why they operate under an open book principle, what COVID has taught them that they will continue to implement, the benefits of working for a smaller size company, how Jerry went from wanting to be a business guy to finding passion in construction, and how Ian went from being a pharmaceutical scientist to a construction project manager. That is a 180 if I've ever heard of one. To get in touch with Caliber, pop over to caliberprojects.com. That's CALIBER projects.com. And to reach out to Ian or Jerry, head over to toolspodcast.com/June, where you can always find links to everything mentioned, including Jerry and Ian's LinkedIn pages. And I'm just going to leave this here to start the episode off. Woo! Let's get right into it. Jerry and Ian, thank you guys so much for joining me on this June edition of the monthly Toolbox Talk. I'm stoked to have you on. And because there's 2 people that I'm interviewing this time, and I haven't done this before, I need to start off with getting some intros so that people can get familiar with your voices. So why don't we just start with you, Jerry? Give us a little bit of background on who you are, what you do, and maybe you can intro Caliber for us again.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having us, Colin. Really appreciate it. I think on the personal intro side, I'm going to let the age go before the beauty. So Ian here is just 1 or 2 years older than me, maybe not, old enough to maybe be my dad. And he's got a much cooler story than me, so I'll let him intro who he is, and I'll touch back on Caliber.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, so Colin, I grew up on Vancouver Island, bit of a logging, small town gut cell, small town boy logging community, but had aspirations of being a doctor one day. I actually wanted to be a brain surgeon, if you can believe it, when I was 3 years old because my grandfather died of brain tumor.
Wow.
And so worked hard all the way through high school, got really good grades, got an entrance scholarship to UBC, went into chemistry. And then when I got into my fourth year, I did a detailed research project and ended up actually going into the research side of things. So then I did my PhD in chemistry at UBC and then ended up doing a postdoctoral fellowship through the NSERC Research Council at a company called Anermed. So I worked there for 7 years and we were doing drug design chemistry for anti-HIV drugs and stem cell mobilization drugs. I'm all about the divine providence of God and then his plan for my life. And it took a major turn at the end of 2006. And it was probably due to actually the success of the company. And we got bought out in a hostile corporate takeover through stock purchases. And our company got closed down because a big pharma company in the States bought us out.
Wow.
So I had a decision to make. I had to either move to Boston with the new company, or I had to find another job in my field in Vancouver, which was very limited, or I had to make a career change. So I knew the owner of MetroCan Construction at the time. And he offered me a job. They had been awarded the contract to build the Olympic Village. So he's like, hey, you're a pretty smart guy. You can probably figure construction out. It's pretty simple, right? And, it's not brain surgery or anything. So I actually took a leap of faith and thought, you know what? It would be an amazing legacy to leave that I could say I was part of building the Olympic Village. So I actually made a huge career change and jumped in with both feet and haven't really looked back. I've been in the industry now for 14 years. So you can make a change from PhD in chemistry to construction bum.
No kidding. So you're a PM, correct?
Yeah, I'm a senior project manager for our company. So I oversee multiple projects. I'm overseeing 4 projects right now, over about $160 million worth of projects.
Wow. So one thing I want to ask you is it's one thing to just make a career change. It's another to just come into a field where you may have no experience. What was your construction experience before taking the leap of faith to go build the Olympic Village?
Like I couldn't even build a birdhouse. I think I actually failed. I failed woodwork when I was in grade 8. So I didn't have a whole lot of construction experience. None of my family had ever been involved in construction. We were loggers and fishermen. But one thing I did know is I knew how to project manage. And project managing is just managing time, people, and money, right?
That's right.
And it's actually, if you understand those 3 core foundations of how to do that, especially managing the people portion, project management's project management. So I was able to translate those skills and also when you're doing your PhD, the critical thinking skills that you come up with, the problem solving skills, and that is actually proved to be invaluable, and actually I think has given me a leg up on a lot of people in the industry because of how I think and how I analyze things.
That's what I've heard. You definitely learn a different way of thinking and organization when you go to school for that length of time and you have all sorts of papers and exams to prepare for. School's only 10 weeks at a time, man. You learn it all in the field, right?
Yeah. And now I moved over to Caliber Projects about a year and a bit ago.
Okay.
The company has gone through extreme growth over the past year. We've probably grown 4 or 5 times in our construction volume in the past year. And, large part of it has to do with the leadership here. And we brought in a couple key people to basically help expand the company. And there's some really exciting things going on at Caliber.
That's amazing. So let's hop over to Jerry then to tell us a little bit more about yourself first. We want to know what you do and Caliber.
Yeah, so my story is, a little bit different than Ian's. Maybe it's the opposite. Maybe I'm in construction management now, and maybe I'll decide to pursue a PhD later in life. And become a brain surgeon. Ian will be super jealous. No, my story's not as long. I've been in this industry. I've been at Caliber for 6 years. So, around here, I guess I'm one of the OG, one of the originals. So when I started 6 years ago with Justin Bonkus, who's the president of Caliber, there was three of us. I was the token laborer, probably 17 at the time, 18 at the time. And Justin was kind of the project manager, and we had one superintendent. We were doing a little row home project in Langley. So the company's been around for 10 years. We've kind of been doing multifamily for 6 and steadily growing after that. Specifically, the last 3 years has been exponential growth. So my personal story, growing up, Fraser Valley boy, into the sports, really liked school, liked business. Fun story about me. My dad owned a coffee company. So instead of selling lemonade, I sold coffee in the winter and made way more money than all the other lemonade kid stands. So
Wow. Haven't heard that one before.
I had handwritten business cards for raking leaves and would make like $4 a yard that took me half a Saturday to rake leaves. So a serial entrepreneur, undoubtedly. And, when I joined Justin in 2014, was doing it for a part-time job. I was in business school. I was going to be some CFO or I don't know, business owner or something. One day I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I had some time during my school and I wanted some cash to pay for school. So that's how I got on board. And within 6 months, I was learning different things. I wasn't just, shoveling gravel and sweeping. I was learning how to build stairs and carpentry and quality assurance. And from there, just hop, skipped, and jumped my way through a business diploma, switched to a construction management degree at BCIT, which is a killer program, would highly recommend.
Yeah, I went through that as well.
Yeah, it's an awesome program. And you know what? Just grew with the company. We were 3 or 4 guys back then. We're well over 30 now.
Wow.
We've got some amazing people. Yeah, I'm one of the young guys that makes the older guys look older, but we got some great young guys there, and it's been a lot of fun.
No doubt.
I didn't think business or construction could be this fun, and to me, I didn't think I'd end up in construction, but I just fell in love with it.
So what is your exact title?
So my title is business development.
Okay.
From the sales side, working with new clients, new developer clients. We're a small ship, so we don't have, a marketing manager or anything like that. So there's kind of a coined phrase, the culture keeper. I pride myself on trying to make sure everybody's included in team events, and we do a little bit of marketing. We do stuff on LinkedIn. We're not huge on Facebook or Instagram. So it kind of encompasses all of that. We're fairly entrepreneurial as an organization. So we're always looking at different ways to do things and potential new business ideas.
Yeah.
So Justin and I have an element of our role that's in the actual development of different business ideas as well. So it's an exciting group to be around. We often say, and this is rolling into who Caliber is, we're more than a construction company. We're more than a square foot builder. It's a team of people. We say that our process is we love building people and process. We could be doing that in a different industry. We happen to be doing construction management right now and general contracting. So who is Caliber? We're a team of A players hanging out in the Fraser Valley of British Columbia in the awesome country of Canada. And we build stuff. We're multifamily, so we're doing some mixed use, some townhomes, condos, a little bit of commercial. But what really fires us up is progress. So seeing buildings come up, collaboration, people, relationships, all the other buzzwords that you hear all day long, we live those out.
Yeah.
Like we live those out every single day.
Man, you're getting me fired up here. So one of the things I like to ask people, and this segues right into it, is do you have any opportunities available right now? If anybody's listening, and obviously I'm from BC, now I live in the East Coast, so I've got listeners all across Canada. If somebody's looking for that opportunity to be an all-star, to join that team, do you guys have anything available right now? You're looking for anybody?
Yeah, so we just hired a finishing foreman, superintendent. We're currently hiring for project manager right now for actually our biggest project that we have. It's part of a massive development we're involved in, 75-acre development. So it's going to be over the next 10 years or whatever. So we're looking for a project manager for that. as well as probably within the next 6 to 12 months, we'll be looking at possibly hiring an estimator, also probably some project coordinators and some additional safety people. Jerry is incredibly good at his job, which means he keeps having more work, which is a good thing. You know, lots of people are struggling right now, but we somehow seem to be getting some really good traction. And so I would say we're definitely going to be hiring probably 4 to 6 to 8 people in the next 12 months.
Amazing.
To build on that, we say we're always hiring A players. So what is an A player? We have 3 core values at Caliber that we don't mess around with. They sound really fun. You'll probably laugh when I tell them. You've probably already seen them on LinkedIn, but own it, crush it, and love it. Those are our core values. And we score our own employees on that. We score ourselves on that. Crush it. Are we getting lots done? Are we doing tons of work? Are we working our asses off? Yes or no? Own it. That's all about, are you dependable and reliable? You say you're going to have a task done by this week. Did you get it done? And love it is community. Love it is safety. Love it is, do you just enjoy laughing and having fun with your team and hanging out with a work family that feels more like family than work? So, we use those core values in our interviews. We use those core values when we're looking at resumes. Are people loyal to their past companies? Have they jumped around? And so if the right person comes along, especially in, the project management, site superintendent type roles, we establish those relationships. Sometimes, like in Ian's case, we were talking with him for a year and a half, 2 years.
Wow.
Before he eventually made the switch. And it's all about timing. So, if I had to say anything to people listening, like if you are an A player, and you'll know if you are, and you're not happy where you are and you happen to find yourself in the beautiful British Columbia coast, like we establish these relationships and we have what we call a virtual bench of people who are just hot to trot and ready to go. And, we're always looking to add people to that.
Shout out to you guys, man, because, that's one thing. I've been drawing so many parallels between sports and construction recently. And that's one of them. I was talking to a guy yesterday that's a recruiter, and he was talking about the importance of kind of having an agent that can find you the best deal when you're in your career. And it goes the same for the companies themselves. Like, you guys have to have that roster, because how many times, anybody listening, you get caught with your pants down because all of a sudden you got a huge push, a bunch of work comes through and you got nobody to staff the projects. You haven't been making those relationships in the background, and then all of a sudden you've got all this work and you got to hire off the street, and you never know what you're getting in that case, right? And I think that you guys keeping that virtual roster is probably a huge benefit in being able to, you're waiting for people for when they're ready for you, ready to have that opportunity to make the switch, and also you're keeping that bench warm, ready for people to get put into these projects as they come. And it sounds like you're growing, and you almost need to have that to ensure that you can staff up and make sure that everything's being run correctly, and that you actually know who you're bringing into the organization over time, right?
Well, and I think too, one thing that we really focus on, Colin, is hiring through our own personal network. So I would probably say you can count on maybe 1 or 2 fingers out of the 30 people that work for Caliber that actually were resumes that just were sent in on an ad that we had. Almost every single person has been hired by referral.
Wow.
Right. And if you've got A players referring A players, right, and that the person already knows the person and their integrity and their drive and their capabilities, they're not going to refer somebody to this company, Caliber, because A player is where it's at. They won't refer their friends or their acquaintances or whatever unless they know for sure that they meet all of those qualifications.
That's awesome. The next place I wanted to get into with you guys, and we've touched on it a little bit here, but I want to go down to the specifics level. And I'm not sure if you guys have planned to answer this by a specific person or not. Maybe it's Ian, maybe it's you, Jerry, but I want to know what a day in your shoes looks like. Like, if somebody's listening to this and they're thinking, hey, I'd want to be in BD, or I'd want to be a PM, but I'm not entirely sure what it looks like from a developer standpoint. Can one of you guys or both of you guys walk me through what a day in your shoes looks like, kind of from when you get up and you have that first coffee right through a typical work day?
Sure. I mean, I can start. Most project managers, I would say, aren't typically the ones that are first on site. but I've taken a very different approach. I feel that I can't lead people if I'm not setting the best example. So I always try and be on site by 6:30 in the morning before almost everybody gets there and prepare for my day. Then we have a morning huddle. So our entire team gets together and has a morning huddle every morning at 7 a.m. where we go through the plans for the day, any special announcements or anything specific that I want to communicate. In that huddle, we also do a value share where we at least value share one other person of the team every day on what we appreciate that they've done throughout the week or the day or whatever, or where they, went that extra mile to make things happen on site. So very important to us. Then I'm doing check-ins with my junior project managers that I'm overseeing on the 4 different jobs that I'm running. I'm checking in with my superintendents. I have a myriad of meetings that I'm doing throughout the day, which in this whole COVID thing means mostly Zoom virtual meetings. But
Yeah.
we're starting to get back to the odd in-person meetings where we meet and huddle maybe out on our porch in front of our trailers. I am on site. So I'm basically based out of my main site. A lot of companies have their project managers based out of their head office, and then they're just checking in. We feel that we can build faster, more efficient, and more cost effective when the project manager's on site because we can make decisions immediately. I can
Yeah.
actually go walk out to the job site where there's a problem, look at it, and make a decision, right? So often I'm, being called out on site by the superintendent to deal with some stuff like that. I'm also involved in the senior management at our company as well. So there's some various throughout the week senior management, company planning, HR type stuff that I'm dealing with as well. And my day on site ends around 5:45, 6 o'clock. I'm home for dinner. I have a quick dinner or whatever. I've got some older kids, so they're, one's finishing up high school and one's in university. So then do a little bit of hangout with the family, and then I'm often working in the evenings for a couple hours as well because it's just a lot to do. And the other thing is that we focus a lot on too is our leadership training. So we're often taking courses and stuff like Dale Carnegie. I've taken Dale Carnegie management course. We're taking estimating courses or stuff like that. One thing that Caliber is really focused on is educating our people and building into people. Like Jerry said, we build people and processes. And when we build people, we try and make them the best Ian he can possibly be.
I love it.
And we
If his name is Ian.
and we invest in our people. And we actually have significant line items in our corporate budget for education for our people.
Man, that's a progressive company. I love hearing that. Good for you guys. That's awesome.
On my side, I'll just keep it short. Business development, if you're a guy or a gal who loves people, relationship building, genuine, strong relationship building, business development, the sales side is where it's at. My day does not start as early as it used to when I was on site, which is fine. I'm a bit of a night owl guy. So from being 24 years old, my mantra is kind of invest in working my tail off right now as far as hours.
Yeah.
So often Ian and I are emailing each other at unheard of hours of the night doing work. And for me, I enjoy business and I enjoy connecting and making the deal happen and thinking of how we can market ourselves efficiently without actually having to hire marketing people. So it's really creative and it's a lot of fun. I would encourage many people out there, however many people are listening, if you can and you have the opportunity or the choice, stick with a smaller company as a young person. That's my opinion. I had opportunities at larger firms. They are tempting because the dollar figure is usually larger. Take it from me, who's been here, 6 years, which is quite long for a millennial to stick around at any one company. Invest in the small company. There's incredible opportunities. You get mentorship, being able to be part of senior management meetings and planning where this company is going and how we can bring our people along is something I never thought I would have the opportunity to do.
Yeah, when you're involved in a small firm like that, like you mentioned, you really do have a chance to help, you're heard, you're more easily heard, and you have an opportunity to help structure that business. Plus, there's just so much value in seeing something grow and learning along the way with an organization. And, you're not treated like a number, like some of these other organizations that are in the 600 people range.
Yeah.
No, totally get it. One thing I wanted to just circle back on really quick, Ian, you mentioned that you do a check-in with your coordinators. And one thing that I like to ask, or that I think about a lot, is abnegation versus delegation. So being mindful in your delegation practice when you're giving somebody work to do, versus abdicating when your plate's too full and you don't want to deal with it, so you're just sloughing it off on somebody. You're not making sure that they're not overloaded. So I was curious what it looks like when you're checking in with a coordinator. Like, are you making sure that their heads above water? What does that process look like for you?
So we have a weekly GSR that we have with each of our direct reports. So all of my junior PMs that I oversee. So that's like a goal setting review, right? So we meet with
Yeah.
them once a week.
Are you guys BTA members by chance?
Yeah, we were. We know them quite well.
Yeah, I was as well. So I know the acronyms quite well.
Yeah, so we've got that in place, and yeah, so I'm just basically checking in on them. So at each weekly GSR, we basically, let's say there's a list of 15 to 30 items, but there's 3 or 4 hot topics. I'm just checking in. How can I support you to make sure that these are going to get done? Is there anything you need from me? I'm basically mentoring these young guys, and I'm training them, and I'm teaching them. And that's one of the exciting things that I really enjoy about this company is I'm actually one of the old farts here. I'm 48 years old, and I think the 4th oldest person in the entire company. But what's super exciting about that is I get to mentor these young guys who have incredibly awesome attitudes, who just love to crush it and work hard, and they're sponges and they absorb, right? And they ask questions and they're learning like crazy. And so we're developing guys that if they weren't in this type of mentorship structure that we've set up, I'm going to be able to develop guys that are from PCs to PMs where I can trust them to go and run a 40 million job on their own, and with me overseeing it, I'll probably have them there in less than 3 years.
Wow.
Yeah. So while I delegate, right, I delegate based on their ability to do. So I'm not just going to give them something without teaching them how to do it, why they're doing it, what the deliverable is. Even if the check-in's only 5 minutes, Colin, I think it's critical to have a touch point with each individual at least once a day. I want
I
them to
totally
know
agree.
I care, right? I also I'm very encouraging, right? I'm always encouraging. I'm always looking for the positives, right? And letting them identify the negatives,
Yeah.
right? A players know when they're not doing well and when they've screwed up or whatever, and they'll identify it themselves, right?
Yeah, they'll beat themselves up probably to their own detriment.
Well, that's part of our own it
Yeah.
culture, right? People are going to own their mistakes, and that's what I freaking love about this company is that people will own when they make mistakes too, or they'll own when they don't know something, and they won't try and fake it. They'll ask the questions. So.
100%.
Cool.
Yeah, and we start those GSRs with the check-in, personal, work, and health, right? How you doing? Rate yourself
Yeah.
out of 10, right? Quick. Let's see how you're doing.
Yeah, it's so important because I think too often, and I'm a huge victim and also proponent of this in my personal life, is you get into the office or you get in front of your computer, wherever that happens to be, whether you're in the office or you're at home or you're in the field. And the first thing you do is you just open your inbox and you just start going nuts, right? And it's like, where's that time to just reflect and plan the day and see how the team's doing and checking in with the boys and girls and making sure that things are on track and that everybody's safe and happy and healthy and they're not going through something that you're just not realizing because you're just caught up in this daily spin of it all, right? And so I appreciate that you guys deploy that check-in process, which is perfect. One of the next questions that I wanted to ask is in terms of realizations, and you can take this any way you want. So anything that you've learned in construction or any light bulbs that have popped up or really any realizations that you have come to about the industry in general or about your day-to-day that you think would be important to highlight or spotlight for others.
I'll take the lead on this. We had sort of prepared a little bit for this because we knew this question was coming. So 2 things. Ian's going to touch on, leadership and COVID, especially during this time.
Yeah.
Some huge realizations there. Something else that I think is prudent to bring up that might help other people out there in the small business or even medium to large business communities is the concept of people support what they help create. So that comes down to empowerment. That realization as a young guy who's been given a lot of opportunities and seen this firsthand myself, to flip that around to our site guys or our other people in the office, like knowledge and just communicating what might be the right answer is not as beneficial or valuable as coming to that result together, or maybe not even coming to that exact result, but as long as the people are involved and included in the process,
Yeah.
they will support it. They'll die for that cause because they were involved in the making of it. And that ties into something that we're just getting into rocking and rolling right now at Caliber, which is called the Great Game of Business. It's an open book management concept that basically allows the entire company to know where we're at financially, what targets we need to hit, what's our critical number, teach them about financial literacy, and just build off of that concept of people support what they help create. Hey guys, do we need more sales or do we need to cut some costs? What's better for our profit? And it's going to be a huge X factor for Caliber. We're already, getting ready with rolling this out. We're really excited about it. And that just builds on my personal realization of, I think it gets down to my favorite quote, which is, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together.
Yeah.
To me, that realization has taken this, driven little 20-year-old that wanted to accomplish everything by myself to really maturing a lot. And this leadership team this year has helped me as well realize that, like, you will go so much farther with the team mentality. Let's do this like together.
Where did that come from? Like, I'm just curious more on kind of a process. So I agree with the open book standpoint. I think that's great. Is this a decision that was made because, like, are you guys employee owned, or is there like a profit sharing structure that is allowing people to take care of the bottom line a little bit better? Or is it a common approach that you heard from somebody else? Where did it come from?
It's not common in construction. Construction often has very subjective bonuses in the industry. So this is more of a team mentality. Team wins, gain share. So it's like a company profit share. There's options down the line for employee ownership that we might explore, but the big thing is having a stake in the outcome. So some kind of global company wins, shared wins, and knowing the most important thing is not just that you get a bonus potentially, but knowing how you can affect that and having line of sight on how what you're doing, Mr. Laborer, on site, or you, safety officer, affects this company and the financial outputs of that as well.
Well, then one other thing, Colin, is the one thing that I've always really struggled with in our industry is that, the project managers and the superintendents are kind of like, they get all the glory, right? So you got all these guys down in the trenches doing the shittiest jobs possible, moving, down in the mud and clay in the winter months and working their butts off, and they get no reward for it, right?
Yeah.
But the project finishes on time and I get a bonus, right? So the mentality here with the Great Game of Business and the having the stake in the outcome is everybody in the entire company shares in the success of the company, right from the laborer making minimum wage to the CEO who owns the company, or principal who owns the company, right? But everybody has a stake in the outcome. And we feel also, by being transparent in regards to how we make money, right? We believe that that's our X factor, and we're gonna far exceed all these other companies who are living with that mentality of, I'm gonna hoard it, I'm gonna keep it for myself, I'm not gonna share it. We think that we're actually exponentially going to exceed other companies because of the fact that we're willing to share.
Yeah, no doubt.
The mentality of somebody knowing that they can affect their own stake in the outcome, you don't even have to motivate them. They fly out of bed ready to run into that muddy hole to move those pumps.
Yeah. You know what? It's funny because I remember the first time that I caught wind as an apprentice to what things cost on a job site. I was on a wastewater treatment facility, and I went and I pulled a bag of tie wraps out of the material locker. And my foreman comes up to me and he goes, "Do you have any idea how much that bag of tie wraps costs?" Because they were like special nylon ones that were used in this wastewater plant. I had no idea. They were something like 50 cents a tie wrap. And just that clicked. I was like, you never think about it. But then I started putting less in my pouch. And then you start taking less material out of the sea can. You start thinking and planning your work a bit more because it's tied to bonuses and things like that. And then you start realizing, like, oh, I'm actually having a direct effect on this company. I can't just go and be filling my pockets and then dumping stuff out when I don't need it anymore. And it's amazing. So I commend you guys for that. And I'd like to hear about leadership in COVID, as you mentioned earlier, how you've come to a realization in that regard.
Well, when this COVID thing first hit, we immediately, as a senior management group, basically dropped everything and we got into what we call our war room. And when we get in there, we say we lock the doors and we don't come out till we come out with a plan and solutions. So we basically brainstormed how are we going to make sure that we're going to, number one, most importantly, keep all our people safe. Number two, we're going to be keeping our sub trade safe. And how can we come up with a plan to minimize the effect for our company? And we also came up with contingency plans, the what ifs, right? So we had 3 different tiers of what ifs depending on what the government mandated for us.
And what month did you start getting in the war room? Was it early on or was it as it was materializing?
I think it was like March the 6th or something.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like we were joking about COVID in end of February, like, oh, haha. And then first week of March was like, okay, this is real.
Yep.
Let's start planning.
Yeah. And I think that the key thing here is communication again, right? So there's a lot of fear out there, and probably more fear was generated due to social media and the news and stuff and misinformation. So we wanted to make sure that our employees, so once again, getting back to our transparency with our employees, we wanted to make sure our employees had all the information. We wanted to make sure our employees knew that we were going to do everything we could to keep them employed. And if we didn't, there was going to be a plan on how we would get them hooked up with government subsidies. So, like daily, we were providing communications to every one of our employees daily in regards to every time the government was rolling something out, we would summarize it, put it out in an email, and how this would affect them personally in regards to next steps and what have you. So we found that incredibly instrumental. People rallied around that fact that we were doing that, and there was no gossip, there was no questions. It was very clear. So we felt that, I'm managing 4 construction sites, and through this, we've either stayed on schedule or pushed ahead of schedule. So even though we were maybe working a little bit less efficient, but we came up with plans to, okay, well, maybe, this crew's going to work here and then this crew will work a little bit later. So we're still accomplishing the same amount of work. We're just doing it differently. Set up all kinds of different things where we had different access points in and out. So we had people would never cross each other in a stairwell or on a ladder. We had an up ladder and a down ladder into the hole, right, to reduce touch points. So we're constantly thinking about how to be better and exceeding the expectations of like the BC Safety Authority's recommendations or the government's recommendations. We're not satisfied with status quo. We always want to be better than.
So you've had to really deconstruct your job sites, your building process. You've had to come up with new ways to keep people safe for traffic flow and all sorts of different obstacles that you've obviously had to overcome. Is there anything within that process of taking a step back and analyzing flow of traffic and all this stuff through job sites that made you realize that maybe there's ways that you were being inefficient because that was just the way it was, where now you've decided to adopt full time because you've noticed that it's actually having a more beneficial effect?
So this is something, when you asked about realizations like that, when I first came into construction, I noticed that in a lot of construction, there's not a proper plan. and people need direction. How frustrating is you say you're an electrician, right, by trade. How frustrating is it when you don't have communication on when you're going to go to the next floor to do your rough-ins or whatever, right? If there's no plan.
Yeah.
I liken it to a sailboat without a rudder, right? And I felt when I got into the construction industry, there was never a plan. And the better you could plan, the better you would have that rudder and you could steer that boat exactly where it needed to go, right? And if you didn't have that rudder, it was just going to blow around and you would eventually get there, right? But you wouldn't go direct from point A to point B. So I think in answer to your question, Colin, what we've done is we've actually become more cognizant of how important the plan needs to be and how detailed it needs to be. And through that, we've created additional efficiencies because we're planning better and we're giving better direction to the trades. And then when you have a plan, people can execute it. When you don't have a plan, they don't know what they're doing.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. Awesome. Well, hey, you know what, guys? We're coming up on time here, but we have room for a few more questions. How do you think that we can influence the younger generation to pick construction? So I look at you, Jerry, and we can tie this into why you love construction so much, but you didn't plan on picking construction. You happened to fall into it after going to business school, and it turns out that it's something you can enjoy. And I feel that that opportunity is there for a lot of people. So Jerry, let's start it off with you. Like, how do you think we can get more people interested in the construction field, and why do you love it so much?
Yeah, for me, honestly, it was just ignorance. I didn't know there was so many different careers in construction. I grew up thinking that construction guys did construction work and that, the people that own the sites were the guys with the money and they're the businessmen, and everyone who was in construction was doing something with their hand. So first it was realization. And I would say that to anyone who's like, you know what, I like business, or I like planning things or organizing or leading. Construction, in my opinion, is the best place to do it. I wanted to go help run some business. And why I fell in love with construction was because I was on site and I connected with a painter on a townhome site, and the sprinkler guy was nice to me. And they saw how hard I was working, and we just connected and we started building a relationship. And I like my philosophy of why construction is such a beautiful industry is because when you get down to larger projects, you have thousands of people that touch the project from beginning to the final people moving in and making that their home. And that sprinkler is not good at framing, but he is fantastic at doing sprinkler work. And the painter probably can't roof very well, but he's very good at roofing or at painting. And, I wasn't really good at anything, but I was good at working hard. Our skill in construction management, like if I had to tell young people that there's a career in what we do, and I'd go to BCIT and tell them that tomorrow, yesterday, any day, it is exciting and fun and collaborative. Everyone has their own expertise, and our expertise is leadership. Really, it's leadership and organization and planning. So we facilitate it all. We bring people together. We resolve conflicts. Like that's our trade.
I love it. That's it, man. You know, I feel it too. And I think you perfectly summarized it and that's part of the reason why I've got this platform, man, is to change the optics behind what people see as construction, blue collar. I'm getting my hands dirty every day, to a world of opportunity to be whatever you want to be and take whatever shape you want to take and get involved in whatever industry you want to get involved in. And thank you so much for that. How about you, Ian?
I think it starts with teaching young kids these days what the value of a dollar and what hard work means. So I've got two daughters, and they have worked on my job sites for probably the last 4 or 5 years. My one daughter started at 13, I think. My older daughter was 15 or 16. And they basically labor on my sites. And the expectation of them is that, hey, you're the boss's daughter and nobody will work harder than you on this job site. And I've taught them that from a young age. Everybody calls them the sweep sisters because, man, can they sweep. They can come out parquets like nobody's business. But the one thing that's cool to see is you'll hear them talking to their friends about their day, or like that they were interacting with this sub trade, or they learned about this or something and whatever. And, my one daughter wants to be a nurse and my other one daughter wants to be a lawyer. But my oldest daughter right now is back work. So she's put in 3 or 4 years of sweeping on the sites. And now she's actually working as a site clerk in the office for the summer for 4 months, right? And so she's actually learning about the whole construction process because maybe she wants to do construction law or whatever, right? So there are so many opportunities, but once again, it's all about hard work, right? If you talk about these things or whatever, the one thing that frustrated me to no end when I came into this industry, and I came in knowing nothing about construction, but I was a critical thinker. And so I would go and look at something and I'm like, it doesn't make sense to me what you're doing here. And this old guy would say, well, I've been doing it this way for 20 years.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I would say, well, hey, just because you've been doing it this way for 20 years doesn't mean you've been doing it right for 20 years, right?
Amen. Yeah.
So just the fact that you got to do things right, but I'd rather take someone with the right attitude and teach them the right way or the best way to do things. And also, like Jerry said, people will support what they help create. Get their input, right? We've got one laborer on our site who's coming up with all kinds of more efficient ways to do things, right? Because we've asked them to think outside the box, right? Challenge these young kids and it'll be amazing what you can see them do.
Well, boys, I'm fired up to go to work tomorrow. I really appreciate the time that you spend with me. Is there anything else that we've left off the table that you want to plug, talk about, leave people behind to think about before we get into contact info for Caliber?
I think we covered a lot of it. I'm extremely grateful for the opportunity. We're just this small, at least we started that way, small little firm out in the Fraser Valley in British Columbia. And we really appreciate this platform and what you're doing here, Colin. It's been a lot of fun. We think we're different. We think we're special. We might just be drinking our own blue Kool-Aid, but if something here helps one person out there, or maybe they start doing a GSR, or they start their check-in with a personal, professional, and health check-in, like if something helps, freaking awesome. Like that's great.
Yeah.
We haven't done this on our own. We've had business coaches and Breakthrough Academy, and we still have different coaches and people working with us, mentors. Like a quarter of my meetings are with mentors in the industry. Justin and I spend more time on other people's sites than our own because we're trying to figure out how to do things better and innovate.
That's it. That's how you build the community stronger. Appreciate that. Awesome.
Like I say, attitude is everything. And I think, the phrase is your attitude will determine your altitude. So as far as we're concerned, sky's the limit when you got the right attitude.
Boys, love it. That's it. Where can people get in touch with Caliber? I already have somebody in mind for you for the PM role, so we'll talk offline about that. But if anybody's interested and they're fired up and they see themselves as an A player, where can they get in touch with Caliber? Who's the best person to reach out to? Give us all the goods.
Yeah, I mean, we're actually finding we're getting quite good traction on LinkedIn. So hit us up on LinkedIn, Caliber Projects. You'll find Ian and myself on there. Shoot us a message. We'll get back to you, no problem, about any question or inquiry. Obviously, we've got a website. I think websites maybe one day will be replaced by LinkedIn, but for now, we've got caliberprojects.com. Yeah, those are the main ones. I mean, you can find us in other places. Come visit us. Come walk our site.
There you go. There's an invitation from Jerry himself. You guys hit him up on LinkedIn. He'll take you on site. If you like what you see, maybe you want to apply, but you must be an A-star player. You know who you are if that's you. Guys, I really appreciate the time. It's awesome getting to know you, and I look forward to catching up in the future, maybe in a year from now, and seeing that you've gone from 30 to 60 and everybody's hustling and making money and having a good time and living the best life out there, and appreciate it.
Thanks, Colin. We're just going to end this with how we normally end all our meetings and our huddles, with the good old value share cheer. So Ian will lead it. You got to chime in as well, Colin.
Okay.
We're going to do love it on too, right?
So first of all, just a quick value share to you, Colin, is like, I am incredibly impressed on the initiative you are taking to try and educate people on the exciting opportunities there are in construction. Good on you to do this. You're a young guy, all younger than me anyways, but I'm, I just want to value share you. I'm so impressed that you're actually doing this. And
Thank you.
It's not to obviously make money on it. It's just something that you're very passionate about, right?
That's it.
And that comes through in spades. Like seeing you smile and you're excited.
I can't stop, man. You guys killed it for me.
So okay, we're gonna close this off with a crush it on 2. Okay.
Okay.
Hands up. Crush it on 2.
1, 2, crush it! Woo! Boys, it's been a pleasure. We'll catch up soon. Thanks everybody for listening. Follow Caliber Projects on LinkedIn. Hit them up if you're looking for that opportunity. I promise you, it's a good place to work. I had a blast. If I was in BC, maybe I'd think about it, but I'm not. So for now, anyways, boys, thanks. It's been a pleasure, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
That's a wrap. That's a wrap, everybody.
Thank you for tuning into this episode of the Tools of the Trade podcast. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and leave us a 5-star review. For show notes, blog posts, resources, and access to our newsletter, check out toolspodcast.com.